Welcome to Pixelated, episode 86. I'm your host, Will Saddleberg. This week, we're getting our first look at Android 17 and some of its blurrier elements with a brand new leaked build ahead of some upcoming developer previews. Where does this look land on the liquid glass scale of UI designs? We'll discuss. Google's new desktop UI for Android also leaked this week, and it has us all wondering just exactly why it's taking so long to roll out to the public. And finally, we talk through Google's new AI Plus plan launching in the US, alongside Chrome's new agentic AI tools that could leave a big impact on the future of browsing. It's a packed show, and it all starts right now.
So after months, we've hoped and waited and prayed for something related to Android 17, and the Lord giveth, the Lord taketh away. He has given us a bit of an insight into what's happening with Android 17. So Abner, give me the lowdown, because you've covered this extensively on site. I love this. You know I love covering Android in depth. So yeah, whatever time of year it is, let's get into it.
Zooming out, I don't think Android 17 is as major a release as the 16 QPR1 with the Material Tree Expressive redesign. It makes sense. They just did a big redesign. They aren't going to go in guns blazing and change everything they just did. So I think with this week, we're starting to see what the tentpoles are. And the big visual one to follow M3E is Blur, by the looks of it. They are any system UI element, so like the volume slider or the power menu, it's going to change from a solid background to a translucent one that continues to be themed with dynamic color. So that's just like how they updated quick settings and notifications last year. That is going to apply to the entire system.
I got to say, I think people are going to have, and I don't want to say this out loud, I don't want to bring this up actually, and I'm going to say the words liquid glass. What do you think?
You have to, right? Like they already do. Yeah, I mean, you can just scroll through our comments, you can scroll through Reddit. Like, yes, like everybody is going to compare this to liquid glass, whether or not it deserves it. And I'm curious to know what you guys think, but my knee-jerk reaction is like, this doesn't look like liquid glass to me.
It's nowhere near as extreme. No, it's nowhere that. I think the understated thing with liquid glass is that it's a material that takes on the properties of glass.
Right.
So when you move it around, there is that effect, like if you take a magnifying glass, refraction. That is the understated thing in liquid glass that you don't see until you use it, until you move around with the UI, until you scroll. It's not captured in screenshots whatsoever. What Google is doing with 17, it is just a straightforward blurring effect so that you can have some context about what's behind the UI you just interacted with. It's in no way as aggressive or as big a thing as liquid glass.
Yeah,
I'm in two minds about this because it reminds me a little bit of those early days of One UI and what Samsung tried to do. Like it does genuinely remind me that a little bit, but at the same time, I think, does it betray what Google have done with dynamic color and material review over the past, say, 4 or 5 years? I'm not sure. I don't think so, but at the same time, kind of like say, I'm in two minds about this. Basically, I'm just confused how I feel about it. But I would hope that we'll have options like there is in iOS to reduce transparency, that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
There is today for the quick settings and notifications. Yeah. It's very straightforward. Again, it's either translucency or the background or a solid background. But to what you're saying about how this fits in with Material Tree Expressive, that is absolutely my question going into this, because in the M3E stuff they released last year, there's absolutely nothing about translucency. So I'm starting to think that translucency is just for the system UI. It's just for Android,
right?
And that just for system elements, like quick settings is the canonical example, and the volume slider. So it might be that just use of translucency is just really meant to emphasize when you're interacting with the OS, and that apps will basically stay the same.
What do you think, Will? Because I feel like you're probably on the same side of the fence as me, where you're like, we're both quite hard like hard down the middle about this, but I think
like that Google with Android, with its version of Android, has leaned heavily on like, straight up like flat colors, and like I think it's like a really fun, unique vibe, especially, and I think it stands out really well compared to Liquid Glass. I'm not like, I don't know. My reaction to this is like a shrug emoji, where I'm like, it doesn't, like, even in this early state, it doesn't look bad. It's like, it feels like change for change's sake. I'm not sure what I'm getting out of this either way. Like, I look at, the power off menu on my Pixel 10 currently, and I hold it up to the example from this Android 17 leak, and I'm like, this is I don't feel different. I feel the same about these. Like, it doesn't give me a different emotional reaction, which I know is a silly thing to say about operating systems, but I felt like, Material 3 Expressive gave me an emotional reaction, a positive emotional reaction when it rolled out last year. And this one, I don't know. Like, it feels a little bit like, to bring back our Liquid Glass conversation, it's like, I don't think this is anywhere like close visually to Liquid Glass, but I wonder if this is just kind of a like, well, blur is in the water right now, so let's just do some blur. Like, I don't know.
I'm sort of intrigued to see what happens elsewhere, though, because we see a little bit of this leak that there are elements that don't seem to have changed drastically yet. I mean, I'm guessing they'll paint over some things and change some things there that we don't necessarily see here, but we get to see that new screen recording option and some of the floating windows. They don't seem to have any sort of blur effect. So maybe this is, like you say, I mean, I don't know. It could just be related to system level toggles, like not just every aspect of the OS. So it makes it a bit more clear. Maybe just improves like that user interoperability. Sorry, no, it's not just user interoperability. It's user-based toggles, I think. But does that make sense? It's making it clear that pun intended, there's a bit of transparency or clarity to those system level toggles versus the usability toggles that you're kind of having for screen recording, or you click, well, that kind of stuff.
I think the underlying level, I'd say, this does seem like a more stylistic modernization rather than any big design statement,
right? Like
Liquid Glass was. This is just updating it for the times, and I think that's perfectly fine.
That's a good way to put it.
That's a perfectly fine refresh.
Let's get into this screen recorder then, because obviously we haven't seen huge elements of what Android 17 is really going to bring to the table, or probably going to bring to the table. I do agree that I don't think we're going to see massive, huge changes because, as we've alluded to, Android 16 in those previous QPR releases is, well, it's massive, isn't it? And it is that big visual change you wanted. But do you think Google is just going to kind of get into the nitty gritty here and improve and enhance experiences, like underlying those, like we're kind of seeing here, like system level tools, or is that just something that happened to need a refresh from what we've seen with these?
Again, we can't. This is a leaked build, an internal build. We don't know how far along everything is, but from this, it does look like a lighter UI than what you are dealing with today, which is basically when you start screen recording, your options appear in the pop-up menu at the center of the screen, takes up everything. This new approach is a floating pill at the center, at the top of the screen, that you can tap for a drop-down menu of more options. I mean, if Google wanted to tell a story with Blur and with this, it would be something along the lines of minimizing system UI, making everything feel lighter and whatnot. Is there a pressing need for it? Not necessarily, but modernization, it happens, it's fine.
It feels like it's trying to get out of the way, if that makes sense. And I will give credit to Google here. They've done that pretty darn well over the past few years. And because initially in Material U and Android 12, it felt like such a big paradigm shift. And in some ways, things did start to get in your way a little bit. I'm not being disrespectful there. I think it did compared to previous things like the quick settings toggles, they were smaller. Then you have those big pill-shaped toggles, which some people took a while to get used to, and it took double taps to access certain things that were a single tap. So this, to me, feels like a step in that direction. And I know I could be reading into this wrong, but that's what these tools feel like to me, if that makes sense.
No, yeah. I think that a bigger change, which we're still expecting to happen, is the idea of splitting notifications and quick settings into its separate thing. So if you swipe down from the top right corner where the status bar icons are today, you open quick settings. Anywhere else, you get notifications. It's a very iOS thing, which actually, what do we feel about that? Do we prefer the combined panel, or do you think some of us are going to, what would you use? The classic option, which is going to remain, or this new split option that we're seeing?
Always and forever combined to me. I have tried it on every other, because every other Android phone now like offers this. Yeah. And I have tried it. Like I have given split a fair shake. And obviously anytime I pick up an iPhone, you're trapped in that world. But there really is something about like the iPhone having, initially a notch and now the dynamic island that works with my brain, where it's like a very definitive split between the two that is not on like any other Android phone, because they all have like small little hole punch cutouts that it doesn't split the screen in the same way. And so I can never wrap my head around when I'm trying, like, where my thumb should land. So I inevitably end up just recombining them.
Yeah, personally, I would like the option, and the reason why I like the option is because if you've used it on One UI, like on One UI, I think it's 7 it started with, One UI has that really nice option which gives you the ability to say, okay, I'd like one switch for toggles, and then I know Google is intent on switches, but with Pixel over the past few years, it does look like it makes sense to have a tool and a toggle that you can turn on and off to switch between them, which logically, I mean, thinking of the lock screen, for instance, you won't want to access just toggles. You want to access toggles there, for instance, because you can see notifications anyway. So maybe it's a bit redundant. But in the system, I think it does make sense to have two options for the notification shade. I don't know, it kind of consolidates it. And maybe we've just reached that stage anyway where everyone's copying everybody's homework, basically to the point that we have the same experience regardless of what phone you happen to pick up, even though they look visually different. I mean, I know I've given you a bit of a mealy mouth response there. So I'm going to stick to traditional. So I'm going to stick to traditional solo one style notification shade with toggles as well.
Yeah, same. So I think we all know how iOS works. Yeah. My biggest issue with their control center is that when you open it, it's a full screen interface. You can have tiles that look like widgets. It just looks like a second home screen. Yeah. And I never like how it feels like its own experience with third-party apps can add their own control center stuff. Again, this is all possible in Android notifications, and it's been for years, but I feel like there's so much more subtle about it. It doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like you're accessing a second home screen, especially since they have multiple pages, etc., etc. So
feels like a toolbox.
So yeah, it's supposed to be quick, isn't it? It's supposed to dive in, dive out, turn the thing off that you want to turn off and turn the thing on that you want to turn on, whatever you want to do, like disable something, then ditch it quickly, and then maybe have some notifications in there while you're there. I think that's fine. I think for most people, maybe they're going to be a bit overwhelmed with the new Pixel layout the layout on Pixel, but it has been like that for a little bit of a while now. So I can kind of understand why you want to have notifications, or you just want to have notifications. So I'm not going to criticize anyone too heavily, because I don't really think it's a problem. I think it's just having an extra solution is good. But I do hope, like, both of you really, that I think we can just stay where it is now, which I don't mind. I don't have a problem with, but yeah, we'll see what Google does.
So yeah, in terms of other features that we've briefly seen, it is the idea of app lock, where you'll be able to add an additional confirmation before you open any apps. And the other thing is you can use chat bubble interface for basically not a chat app. We've only seen those in brief, but I think it goes back to the idea that I don't think Android 17 is a major release, or at least not this initial one. And it is, I mean, the story of Android the past few generations has been adding common features that are found from other OEMs, from iOS. Again, like everybody, it's a virtuous cycle. So it's just adding more options. And yeah, that's until we hear otherwise, Android 17 is shaping up to be not the biggest update, but we just had the big update.
Yeah, I wonder about the notification bubbles as well. Like, do we think they've tried this already? We've been going at this for like a decade now. So I feel like if it hasn't previously taken off, it's not going to take off again. Like, do you use it?
I mean, I see people using it for chat notification. I don't, but I see people using it for chat notifications. I do think, again, to go back to that Facebook phone made by HTC however long ago, with that nice lock screen that showed your photos and everybody posted images on Facebook. I think that was a novel idea at the time, interaction idea at the time, but I feel like it just might feel too cluttered today. That's why I don't really use bubbles. Yeah. If I want to interact with that stuff, I go to notifications. But I don't know, I see people use it, so maybe there's something there.
I'm also guessing in this context, it's for multitasking though as well. Like you bubble an application to then access it super quick without having to go to the recents menu.
Maybe.
I mean, that's my outside take on it, but it could be the way that they're thinking of it. I don't know. I mean, have you ever used a chat bubble yourself? I think I've used it maybe once or twice.
Occasionally, like I recently, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I somehow like I accidentally enabled it in Telegram. I truly do not know how I did this. It was just like, I must have hit something when I was trying to read a DM or like a group chat message that moved that conversation into a chat bubble. And I was like, well, I guess like I haven't tried these in like years, and I never liked them. I remember, yeah, I guess Facebook was the thing that I remember them the most of, but like I had not used them in years, and I was like, I'll give it another shot, I guess. Like maybe they've gotten good enough. And I just find them so finicky. Like I find that they are never really where I want them to be or doing what I want them to do, and I'll dismiss them, and they'll inevitably just like, somebody else in a group chat like sends a message. It's just like, you wanted this back, right? I know you just dismissed it, but you wanted this back on your screen. And like, I don't know, keep that stuff in the notification tray. I don't need it on my home screen or in apps while I'm trying to like do anything. Even if it's just scrolling through social media, it's like that can live in the status bar. So for me, I always end up turning them off.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably one of those things. It definitely feels like an ADHD edition where you can just slide this little bubble around. And I do wonder if there is really a theory out there. I wonder if this is a symptom or potentially a feature as where, I don't know why I said symptom there, something that could potentially be used in tandem with maybe a little bit more interaction in and around the control notch. Maybe Google's thinking about some sort of implementation there when dismissing this feature, a little bit like that. I know there's something that could be done that's cool there, and I'm sure they could do it, but I guess we don't really need the dynamic island on Android. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of it anyway. There's a lot of implementations out there that are terrible anyway, but I prefer the chip style status bar option. So maybe it is feeling a little bit redundant to me. I guess some people might find it useful, but yeah, that basically is all we have to say about Android so far. I'm excited. I'm always excited about these updates. I like to see all of these tiny little changes that mean quality of life additions. I think between all three of us, we're kind of a bit, I guess, maybe we'll build this enthusiasm at some point in time, but it will be there very, very soon. There are only very, very minor things so far. And I know that this isn't tangentially related. It's not Android 17, but this week we also saw something that I would argue is a lot bigger. It was the first leak of Android's full desktop interface. And this looks potentially exactly what we were kind of hoping for. But yeah, I'll give you some more details on this happening let Abner detail this, because you covered this very much in depth as well.
So if you've used Android tablets, which in fairness, most people haven't, modern Android tablets, or if you've connected your Pixel to an external display, which again, I think most people probably haven't, since that feature is still technically in beta, desktop Android looks so familiar in a way that I was like, oh, this is it?
Yeah.
The biggest change that Google made is it's a proper status bar. It's compared to what we have, compared to when you're using desktop Android with a mouse or trackpad or an external keyboard. It's just a little bit taller. You get the full time, you get the full date. the status bar icons are a bit larger for you to click with a mouse cursor, etc., etc. But that really does look like the big desktop UI change. The taskbar looks the same. I guess we can go into I guess it makes sense that Google is going to keep the taskbar, the status bar that's on Android phones and other tablets, and they're continuing it on the desktop, so it's familiar to users.
Yeah.
But they're not doing anything in the bottom right corner like Chrome OS or Windows. I guess you can say it's most closely aligned with what Apple does, but again, this is what Android phones and tablets have been doing for ages.
Do you think this is going to, I mean, we obviously expect this to replace or fully usurp Chrome OS as kind of a de facto method in which we get a desktop experience from Google. Like, do you think this is something that is going to fully integrate into all of our phones, or are we going to get like this halfway house on the experience we have on the phone right now, or is this literally it? Because I'd say, I mean, Android is technically built for phones in that respect, so I don't know is there going to be a lot of work with the Samsung DeX and an equivalent of DeX and all, that has a lot of these features already. How do you feel about
that? They all have to be the same thing. They can't offer 3 different experiences based on whether you're using a proper Android laptop, you're using a tablet, or you're using DeX mode from your Pixel. It has to be unified, but it's, I don't know, it could be worse, I guess. It's fine. We see windowing, we see multitasking. It's fine. It's so familiar.
Yeah.
It works. It absolutely works. And I will admit that a part of me wishes that Google introduces something totally novel in terms of UI, a new idea. But if it works, it works.
I get the impression that with regards to the UI, they can't really do anything too drastic because people are kind of used to what they're used to, if that makes sense. I mean, if you differ too drastically, that could effectively just kill your entire potential market share, couldn't it? Or kill the market share you already have, because obviously Chrome OS is out there in the wild. I'm kind of interested to see if we get the opportunity when Android 17 does drop, or if, as it notes, actually is based on Android 16, if we get a beta at some point to try and test it, and this is made available as soon as you plug in your Pixel, just how that gets on and how it performs. Because, it seems to run pretty well. I don't know if there's any details on the device which this was running on, or just an existing Chromebook.
Yeah, it's
Dragonfly.
An old 2021-22 Chromebook. It is running 12th gen Intel. DeX runs fine on the Pixel phone, to Google's credit. So I don't think this is as power hungry or anything. Or rather, the baseline of chips, they are all good enough to be pretty. Performance cannot be an issue in this day and age.
Yeah, it does run pretty nice from the demo we've seen. I'm obviously hoping that we get to see some more killer features as well in the future. It doesn't seem to be any at this point in time. I don't seem to see any major ones. But yeah, I think we've talked about this at length. Does it necessarily feel a bit underwhelming to you? I mean, we've seen this now, and it's kind of what we expected.
No, it is. It's honestly, I thought they would launch by now. I definitely thought this was going to be a 25, something that happens in 25.
Yeah.
But this has to happen by 26 because it is seemingly that straightforward.
Yeah, I guess the wait was making me think this would be more of a visual redesign than it is compared to, like current desktop mode, right? Like I just I don't know. Like I guess it doesn't really matter. And I guess Google kind of had 2 routes that they could have followed, right? And it was like do something completely out of left field, like, reinvent the desktop interface, or mirror existing interfaces from Android and Chrome OS fairly closely in order to make whatever transition they're doing more comfortable for existing users and or even just people who have maybe had a Chromebook before and are going to look at an Android powered laptop and be like, oh, like I vaguely know what this looks like. It looks like the Chromebook I used to have combined with Mac OS or whatever, right? Like nobody's going to buy this based on the UI though, so I think it's smart to probably lean on comfort overall. It's what we've said for months now, which is that like the success of this is going to completely depend on app support, not what the visual UI looks like. As long as the UI is fine and like this is fine, this will work. This is exactly what like a modern UI looks like.
I think whenever we mention Google and desktop stuff, what comes to mind is Fuchsia, where they were really trying to rethink what an OS, how a desktop OS works from the user, from the underlying architecture to the system UI. That was the original plan for Fuchsia. That was in the air for so long. But I think what's happening now is something that's an extension of the Android phone you're familiar with the biggest similarities probably coming from Chrome OS.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a bit of a left field prediction here. All I think this needs to do is usurp the experience on low-level Windows 11 laptops. And I think genuinely for a lot of people, there is a growing discontent of Windows at the moment. So, I mean, we've talked about it previously, haven't we, on a podcast episode. So I genuinely get the impression that all this thing needs to do, or all Android on desktop needs to do is run the kind of applications that most people are going to be able to run basically fine, like either from a professional standpoint or a hobbyist standpoint, or it could really do Google wonders in terms of general Android market share as well, because obviously you have all these potential Chromebooks out there that are running Android right now, and then Android is already the dominant force anyway, so practically this would dominate huge swathes of the market. But I can see this being a really, really big move for them, and I kind of hope that they just put in the time and effort to really ensure that this is built. The build number for this is LOS or Aluminium OS, which is, I mean, in and of itself is an interesting concept, but with the code name and stuff like that. But I'm hopeful that this is the kind of move that people are looking for, and seeing the comments online from this about this leak, it's kind of giving me a bit more food for thought. Yeah, there's a lot of people potentially excited by this, more so than I expected. So yeah, as I say, there isn't really much to get into. I guess it's the experience we kind of expected at this stage. There's a little bit of redundancy, like you say, with the two-status bar approach, but I'm sure that'll probably change with time. But yeah, let's hope we get some more information in the coming months with regards to potential beta phases, that kind of stuff. I'm personally banking on the fact that when the Android 17 beta arrives, we'll get a better look at this.
Yeah. I hope this speeds up because there is something, and we've talked about this, but there's something in the air right now to like specifically move away from Windows. People feel very frustrated by Microsoft as a company in like 8 different ways, to be honest with you. I think you could find 2 people who are annoyed at Microsoft right now, and they would have completely different reasons. But you know, like just today, I mean, like NVIDIA is bringing GeForce now to Linux, they announced, and there's some kind of like open gaming collective, with developers trying to aim for Linux. So like there is an opening, as we've talked about, for some kind of new like desktop OS platform. And Google needs to strike like faster. Like they need to get this like up and running for people like soon. I think I agree with you, Abner. Like this should have launched last year, and I'm not seeing. I'm not trying to pretend this isn't like difficult in the background on a technical level. Like I'm not going to pretend I even know what's happening in the background, but just purely visually, I don't see what we're waiting for here, at least in terms of like launching a beta and getting this in people's hands. So I don't know.
I kind of don't think there's a beta for this. Maybe not in the Android sense we're thinking of, be it DeX or Android tablets. Maybe there's something where you convert your Chromebook, but that's just for devs, as to give devs a wider dev device. But I do kind of think that this launch is just somebody announces the first thing you can buy.
Dev builds might be a better way to put it. Like get this in the hands of people who can start building like apps specifically tailored for Android desktop and laptop computers. Yeah.
My first thought is, how long are Google going to support this? We know that obviously Chrome OS is supported quite easily because it's effectively just a browser. And we've seen lots of OEMs in terms of Android try and update their own update plans, their support windows over the last few years. So I'm wondering how this is going to potentially affect those devices as well, because if this is built on Android, then this effectively means that brands, at least in theory, they should be supporting the devices for longer, shouldn't they? So, and we've seen that onus has kind of fallen on Google to support Chromebooks. Like, so are Google going to be the one who support third-party devices that run Android as a desktop operating system? I'm kind of intrigued to see how that all plays out, because I mean, this could be a net benefit for us, consumers in general, because potentially your next laptop that you go out and buy, or your tablet that has this Android desktop interface, I mean, it's a strange one to think about, but as you say, Will, there's more of a clamour for this. And as I mentioned with Windows, I mean, it's definitely not on the slide, but there's definitely growing discontent, and striking while the iron is hot is something that Google doesn't necessarily do that all often, or as often as they should. I mean, let's take Stadia, for example. It's a good one in that respect, because Stadia felt like it was made for this kind of environment that we have now. Yeah. Especially now that obviously we all know components are so expensive that people aren't going to go and upgrade their PC, and cloud gaming starting to become a more feasible option. But yeah, I guess we see how this all plays out. Again, I think it's another thing I'm just excited for. It's that one thing that we've had in previous years that maybe hasn't felt all that great at the start of the year. And I'm just excited for products to come out. And I guess that's all that good work that Google's done in the last few years is kind of culminating in hopefully this really, really cohesive ecosystem. But yeah, that's the desktop OS, Android OS desktop, whatever you call it. Android's full desktop interface is how we've described it. Hopefully we'll learn more in the next few months, but let's get on to some other things. We can't have a podcast without talking about Gemini because, well, that's on vogue, isn't it? So Google AI Plus is now available in the US, $7.99. So tell me about that, Abner.
Yeah, it is. So the pricing currently, it's, I think what most people are on a $9.99 plan with 2 terabytes of storage. That's a legacy Google One thing. And the next thing up is the Google AI Pro at $20 per month. The same storage with all the AI features unlocked. So Google is going cheaper at $7.99 with AI Plus. This was something they launched around the world originally, but they've now brought it to the US and other markets, major markets. So I'm sure there's an audience. I think, yes, $7.99 is attractive, but I think the way most people experience this is from the upgraded $9.99 plan.
I mean, it's weird the number of markets, or how many number of markets they seem relevant, because it's really, really random nations, isn't it? Like Guinea-Bissau, Turkmenistan, Seychelles, and places like that. But that's strange. Why does Google decide that this is one of the key markets? Maybe there's a very heavy component of people that use Gemini in those regions.
Yeah, AI Plus was originally designed for emerging markets, and they were going very hard. But I think that I assume this is always the plan to bring it everywhere, but that distinction doesn't matter anymore. So they're just bringing it to every country out there. It hasn't really hit Europe just yet. So that's interesting.
I also just the elephant in the room is I just don't, we are at a certain level of peak subscription just in general. And I just don't know how much appetite exists for any $20 a month AI subscription for most people. And so I don't know, if you are, a fairly active Gemini user and even if you're not on the 2 terabyte plan already, but let's just say you do like using Gemini, this is a much more attractive deal that gets you a bunch of the stuff you would probably want out of the AI Pro plan without necessarily having to overpay for more of the dev focus stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's smart to do this because I probably I don't know if I would pay specifically for AI plans in general at this current point, but certainly $8 a month is a lot more attractive than $20. I'm sure you can ask Netflix, who have had massive success with their $8 a month ad supported plan as opposed to their 4K plan. I see I think it's a smart move, but in terms of focusing this on emerging markets first, I just this is probably more realistic for what people would be willing to pay for AI if they want to pay for AI.
I mean, you do get 200 gigabytes of Google One storage, which I think, to be honest, I think it should be more than that nowadays. 200 gigabytes just doesn't go as far as it used to, does it?
Yeah, is that the $1.99 plan on its own per month, I think?
I believe that's what you pay in the US. I think it's about £1.59 here in the UK. I mean, I guess you probably get a further $6 or $7, £5 here in the UK of actual added value to it. So in that respect, it probably isn't really a bad price at all, is it? And I don't know, that obviously does potentially undercut some of the other competitors. So I mean, OpenAI can't offer that with ChatGPT because they don't offer that deeper integration with other Google services. So yeah, maybe this is a play to really put Gemini and Google Storage specifically at a bigger forefront of people's minds in these emerging markets. Like you say, it's a bit more affordable. I guess it is technically still expensive in some regions, but it probably feels like a cheaper on the wallet way of doing this. Especially it makes sense to offer on these lower tiers. I'm sure that Google will improve that and add more functionality, but maybe we'll get that other tier in between, which I would be more enticed to, and I think a lot of people will be enticed to out there as well.
And just again to reiterate, like the stuff you're missing, I'll throw to you guys, I guess, actually, but like just comparing these two plans together, and let's take the $7.99 out of it. Let's say you're on that $10 a month 2 terabyte plan versus the $20 a month AI Pro plan, which also includes 2 terabytes. Like, do you guys see anything on this list on the AI Pro plan that you would really miss instead of just signing up for AI Plus? Because like I've never vibe coded, so like that's out the window for me. Like I don't see a lot of stuff here where I'm like, as a generally regular consumer, I'm like, yeah, I really need to go up to the AI Pro plan. I think this always had to happen because the AI Pro feels destined for developers and AI diehard vibe coders.
Well, I will admit that I've recently coded a few little. You were talking about this for myself. Yeah, I have. I mean, I'm in the process of doing something as well for a wallpaper application, just to kind of get one up and running and see how it works. And to be quite honest with you, I mean, a lot of people don't realize that I actually have a computer science degree. So I did a little bit of programming a long time ago, and I will admit I'm not a great programmer, and I don't enjoy doing it. And this kind of understanding the concepts, I do understand. I'm just not great at programming. So for me, I think it's a really nice way to be able to utilize some of those older skills and the skills that might have lapsed and I've let them lapse and it's not done me a favor. So I do think it's cool for that. Would I miss them? It's a very good question. I'm going to say that I have to say no. I don't really utilize it enough, but it's been nice to have those functions available to me while I'm playing around and trying to make some. I made some Chrome extensions that have been really useful to me specifically. But yeah, I don't really know. Have you used? Have you delved into things like Flow and Whisk as well before? I don't think I have at all, but I don't think I've ever used those or even opened them.
No, I don't. My primary use is a Gemini app, which I would say I am a pretty increasingly a heavy user of. But for that, from a model perspective, if I'm paying for something, I want to pay for the best. So the Gemini 3 Pro model. So that's what's probably keeping me on, and the usage limit. The usage limits between the AI Plus and the AI Pro, they are noticeable. Like, I think if you get the $20 AI Pro, you won't encounter the vast majority of people won't encounter the limits in any meaningful way. But I think the AI Plus, you still will if you're trying to use the most powerful model.
I think one of the big things with the AI Pro plan is that I think normies in air quotes will be enticed enough by the fact that you do get a Google Home Premium plan with it. So in that respect, there is one thing that is major added value as well. So as I say, I do wonder if Google will try and keep that in there. I'm sure that they will for a long period of time as a sales tactic. But I'm a bit disappointed that the Plus doesn't even have, say, like a 15-day version of that or a light version of the Home Premium plan. They call it the standard plan, so maybe they could have a light version, but I guess it is what it is. Yeah. I don't even have that here in the UK, so I've been left high and dry anyway, even though I do have that AI Pro plan regardless. But yeah, as I say, it is what it is. It is good to see Google doing this. It's good to see Google trying to at least very, very much lower the entry point for people across the globe. I guess Gemini is a premium product now for Google. Most people probably say, yeah. I don't know if you guys agree with me. It kind of has to be now, right? And and they've made incredible gains over the last 18 months or so. So yeah, but on that, Chrome is now having some extremely new Gemini features added to it, auto browse with this AI Pro plan that we are alluding to.
So yeah, Gemini and Chrome got a big update this week, and Gemini and Chrome launched last year. Honestly, with this update, I'm more inclined to use it. So from a fundamental level, there's a new UI. Instead of this pop-up, floating pop-up window, it is now a side panel. Right, it's a side panel with your browsing window shrinking a bit, and it's such a minor change in the grand scheme, but I am using it more now that it's a side panel, that it's part of the Chrome interface rather than a floating window. It's a minor change, but I think this is the UI that makes more sense than what originally launched. And there's some cool stuff where you can compose a Gmail message in line and just send it immediately. There's like this card that appears that's basically the Gmail compose window. And another thing is with the Nano Banana integration here, makes quite a bit of a sense in terms of if you want something edited, you don't have to download it and upload it. You can just open this side panel and tell Gemini what you want changed with the image, and it automatically grabs the image for you. But yeah, so those are very nice Gemini and Chrome quality of life improvements that are rolling out now. You probably already have it. But again, the big thing is auto browse. It is a true agentic feature in that you can tell Chrome the task that you want, whether it's like booking something, buying something, planning something, filling out forms, etc., and it'll do it for you. I haven't gotten a chance to use it yet in terms of finding a use case that's like not serious, but something super light that I can test it to start with. And I think that might be the case with most people too. But it is a lot of power, and it's coming to a lot of people with AI Pro in the US. Immediately.
I'm got to say, I'm quite scared, as you alluded to the power aspect. I mean, I would be very, very wary of handing over control to Gemini to kind of do my browsing for me and do these little things. But I know there's a couple of demos that they've shown where you can kind of like fill in a form instantly, like you said. I can kind of understand that, like using it to shop Etsy to put potential things in my basket. I would be worried, but there's obviously in that demo, they've shown that they've given guardrails like a spending limit. But at the same time, I feel like, I don't know, I'm probably not the person who'd want to do this. I'm probably the person who'd want to do full control, no autonomy at all. I want to do it myself. No autonomy for the browser.
Yeah, we probably started out the same way with Gemini. Like,
oh yeah.
For example, in the work context I use Gemini for is like text manipulation, in terms of like, let's say you have a list and you want to convert it to a table or vice versa or whatever. Like that stuff, even last year, I was hesitant to do it because I didn't think it was smart enough or powerful enough, or I would heavily recheck everything. But I think there's a point where this utility that is Gemini, the Gemini app, and now Gemini and Chrome, I think there's a point where it's provably, in your experience, it gets it right, and it's more convenient than you doing it yourself. I wouldn't trust it with banking stuff, but to the opposite of what you're saying, like in shopping, I'd probably trust it to do shopping. That being said, I do all my shopping on a phone app these days. It's not really on desktop. But yeah, I think something like shopping is actually the use case I trust. It's low risk enough. If something goes wrong on Amazon, they're usually pretty good about correcting it. And again, like you have to make you always have to make authorize the final purchase on the buy button. It's always you doing that. The safeguards today, it'll never automatically just buy it for you. You have to take the final step.
I feel like we have been in this phase of like, being told that agentic AI is the next big step for these tools, and obviously we are.
Sure as hell didn't happen last year, so maybe now it's finally happening.
Right. How many? I feel like this is the third year of agentic AI, but this is the third time it's been the year of agentic AI. But setting that aside, I've learned to look at Google's examples when they roll out new AI demos as like it's not just these are some of the things you can do, but these are like very specifically the best things we have found for this tool. Like this is going to show you the best example of, and sometimes, not always, but sometimes kind of the only things it can do. I'm not saying that's this case here, but like a lot of times if you push against the walls, you start to, we've seen this a lot on Pixel with Pixel AI features where you're like, oh, the examples they showed on stage were actually kind of the things it can do, not some of the things it can do. So I'm sort of looking at these videos through that lens, just because that's sort of how Google has trained me to look at their demos. The one that seems the most appealing to me is the one where it's filling out a Google form with I think it's like kickball team rosters, right? And it's like using your team roster and then just like taking information from it and filling in this form, which to me I think brushes up against your high risk versus low risk thing, Abner, where I'm like, obviously a kickball tournament is not necessarily high risk in the grand scheme of things, but if you care about your kickball tournament or you're not the team captain and you find out the team captain used this AI tool and something got screwed up and now you don't get to play in the kickball tournament, you'd be pretty pissed off. So I struggle with that. And then, I'm going to set aside the travel stuff because just every AI demo is like, use it to book your flights, whatever, guys. Like I'm so tired of it.
Yeah, book a hotel.
Yeah. So the other thing here, as we talked about, is shopping. And specifically the example here is like, oh, we're throwing a Y2K themed party. And I guess I struggle to see to what end am I doing this? Is not part of the fun of planning a Y2K themed party would be like finding the stuff for your party. I don't like, I sometimes wish when we get agentic AI things, like I want the developers behind it, or even just like PR teams, and I'm not just talking about Google, but just any agentic AI company in general, to come out and say like, what do you expect me to do with the time that I'm supposedly getting back from this tool doing this stuff itself? Like if I'm just letting Gemini plan my party for me, what am I doing while that's happening? I know that's going to be different for everybody. You're not sat
waiting for the agent to get out and run through the process so you can click.
Right. Because it's actively doing it on your desk. Like you watch it happen. You can pause and take over at any time. But am I sitting in front of the computer? Am I getting up and like, is the dream that I'm getting up and going, where am I going? Is this all just to like...
You can do something else. You can keep browsing the web.
To me, it's like...
in the background.
What's even what is on the web that I should go do now anymore? Like the web feels so vacant and empty in comparison to 10 or 15 years ago. I would have loved this. Great. Research my college paper while I spend time on these forums that no longer exist, or, websites that were sold 4 times over and are no longer like publishing anything I want to read anymore. Like I guess I just don't see where we are building to that Chrome can plan a party for me. I know that is like a boring negative take, but like I've been pretty cold on agentic AI specifically since the industry started talking about this. And really in 2024, I feel like was when you really started hearing it a lot. And I have not been like convinced, like we've had 2+ years of various demos and nothing has sold me on any of this. Really. I don't know.
Okay, I have one example. I have one example that I think would be good. So say, for instance, you're in a line for a queue for gig tickets or whatever it is. Okay. I can understand that in that instance. I don't know why Google doesn't show that off. I mean, maybe Ticketmaster doesn't want us to know that
it might not work.
This kind of thing. It's like a hack or something like that, that kind of gets past their horrendous queuing system, whatever they use. So I can kind of understand that. But, well, this is the ultimate bot, isn't it? It's the bot of all bots. I guess it creates the user agent is, it tricks it into thinking the user agent is still a normal human being. So I feel like that in this example, that's what I'd use it for. The amount of times that I've been in line queuing for gig tickets and it takes too long to type things out manually, or that you'd use the autocomplete and it gets something wrong, you could just provide all those details to begin with and have it do the things, have it do all of that for you. I mean, it is effectively that kickball tournament example Google did, but hopefully we'll show it in the link notes as well to this post if you don't understand what I'm talking about. But I think the idea of using hotels, I mean, I'd maybe use it for search. That would come in handy, and it probably will come in handy later this year if we can get this feature in the UK. I mean, or when I'm in the US again, I can maybe use a VPN to actually get this working. But like, you could give it specific details like finding a hotel in a certain radius. I mean, I'm set to go back to Japan hopefully this year, so maybe I can try it then and see how we get on and come back on this podcast and tell you how good or bad it's been. Yeah, I think, though, as you say, Will, it feels like, as you're alluding to a little bit, it kind of takes away a component of purchase, like the purchase experience. Like if you were planning a party, I mean, I don't know why you want to use Chrome to auto purchase stuff. It kind of doesn't make sense, does it?
It's the one example, and there's always an example in Google's examples where I go like, but that, like, doing the thing is like part of the fun to me.
I hate my friends. It's
I
like,
just don't see the
it.
vision of like, I'm so excited to have my friends over for this Y2K party. Let me put no effort in actually putting it together myself. I don't get it.
Yes, at a high level, nobody markets AI well. This is not a Google problem. This is an industry problem.
And Google's the best at it. So when I'm critiquing them, it does come from a place of like, I think they have done the best job, and certainly I've seen plenty of AI ads over the last 6 months of football. So like they are doing the best job, but I still have my critiques, especially around agentic.
And this is a broader discussion for another day. But at the end, fundamentally underlying all this is the idea that the vast majority of people do not have personal assistants. They have never had a human assistant. That's the vast majority of people have never had one. And that is the fundamental idea that about what AI can do, is giving you help, giving you an assistant. And I don't know, maybe, yeah, it's again, this is such a broad discussion. It's about the idea that we've never experienced it, and offloading things is a skill. Let me say that. Maybe once you're in the more managerial positions in companies, or what if you manage people, it's this. This discussion evokes to me, it's the idea of like knowing when to delegate, and it's not an easy thing to do, let me tell you. And again, most people do not have experience with it, but I think there's a point when you use these AI tools where when it gets it right so many times in a row, you'll feel like you'll be able to delegate tasks, the tasks that, I mean, everybody has tasks that they don't really want to be doing. Like if the bill payments that are frustratingly can't auto pay itself, or you have to do research about something you're really just not interested in. Those examples exist, but the idea, I think the issue here is the actions involved. They are so much. There's a risk. Admittedly, what if it screws up you're renewing your driver's license and it screws it up? That is such a high hurdle. So I think everybody will once this becomes widely available, once it becomes a free feature, or maybe it takes these agentic features coming to your phone first before you trust it. But I think once it gets it right so many times in a row, you'll eventually trust it, which is, again, a broad history of technology.
I think it's a really good point. It kind of reminds me a little bit of, like how it works with Hold for Me. Like, it's one of those features that it is powerful in that, and I know this is a tenuous link, you're using this again on your browser. I know that it's been using a much more powerful Gemini model probably, but this is even more exponentially powerful in what it utilizes. So I think that's probably how I would describe it. Like you said as well, and I can 100% see me doing this for online shopping in terms of like grocery shopping, doing the supermarket shop. It's like, okay, here's the menu for the week. Here are the things I don't like, and I don't spend more than this, and it could potentially do that for me. And it saved me a lot of time rather than having to like physically drive to the supermarket or having to go through an application on my phone or the website, and you just instantly you're out. It's in the cart, and even if the price is like incorrect, you can make those changes in the cart. So yeah, I could probably trust it to do that. I mean, yeah, I think I'd risk it for 1 or 2 visits to the supermarket to save me some time. I think it would be a cool test of the system.
Maybe that's, and then we can wrap up here, but maybe that's my problem, is to just like, when I try to think of the things in my life that I don't want to do, they all involve some kind of like human in-person interaction. Like I can't have an agentic AI clean my house, not yet. So maybe, once it's not planning my Y2K party for me, but it's vacuuming before the party, that's when I will be on board.
Yeah, that's it. Perfect. So Google, if you're listening, we want a Nest-powered vacuum that will do everything. Maybe dust everywhere. Pixel robot, yeah. But before we head off, I just want to say, if you've enjoyed us rambling and talking rubbish for the better part of 45 minutes or so, then definitely go check out our brand new online forums. We've just launched them over the last few weeks, so there is discussion ongoing there. It's been on the ground for a couple of days, but we're hoping to build something out for you to enjoy. It's definitely a community effort. We need the community to be involved. There's a lot of discussion going on about all sides of Android, Chrome, Gemini, you name it. It's all on there, and we'll leave a link down in the show notes.
I just mentioned the vacant internet. We're bringing forums back. I didn't even mean to do that, but we are doing it single-handedly. So there we go.
Yeah. We love the comments that we get on all our posts. We read them. We love that you read us and that you read feedback, and we have very interesting discussions on posts. And the forums are an opportunity for you to start your own discussion, and we are very much interested in seeing how you like it, how it grows. So yeah, definitely leave your feedback, and more to come.
Yes, and as always, thanks guys for listening. It's always a blast talking. I say talking rubbish. That's diminishing, I think, a bit what we do. We do talk around the big subjects, but maybe I'm talking from my own perspective here. I do talk a lot of rubbish. So yes, thanks guys for joining me. Love spending time with you, and we will speak to you, and you'll hear from us in the next episode. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks for listening to Pixelated, a 9 to 5 Google podcast. If you enjoyed the show, we ask that you rate and review it on the podcast platform of your choice, and help spread the word by sharing the show with friends or on social media.